Good afternoon, everybody. Gives me great pleasure to welcome to our Sunday afternoon Meet the Atheist segment. Somebody that was introduced to us by Tasha, Momus. Welcome. Very nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's not every day that we get ex-Muslims, on our particular um, scope of radar here. We mostly deal with the other aspect of the other pernicious aspect of religion here in Africa is Christianity. But I'm fascinated by the how Islam rose in such a short period of time to be such a dominant and prominent religion in specific areas of the world. And a lot of people have very negative experiences with that particular flavor of God. So I'm very happy to have this conversation with you today.
Yeah, it should be good. Yeah.
So,
Apologies for my ISIS hostage background.
if you blink thrice in quick succession, we know that there's a problem.
No, I'm in my study. It's a lot messy, so I put up this backdrop so no one can see what's behind me.
Yeah, not a problem. So let me just see quickly. Sorry, I'm just a little bit disorganized about. So let's talk about your journey away from religion, and let's just get to know you a little bit. Um, and I basically entitled this group of questions "The Seeds of Doubt" because,
Mm,
in my opinion, doubt is a virtue. It's
yeah,
it's
yeah.
something that is to be celebrated.
Hmm.
And religion really frowns on people whenever they doubt because they see it as, like I say, a crack in the damn wall.
Hmm.
So, can you describe to us the time that you first began to question your faith, and what were those initial doubts like for you?
Okay, I mean, just to like sort of say, I was born in Kuwait in the Middle East, so I've had a different flavor of Islam, so to speak. Like it's a very milder flavor of Islam, where I
Right,
was growing up. So Kuwait in the Middle East, they are a prosperous country. There isn't that much extremism or any at all. But
right,
at the age of 15, I moved to Pakistan because that's where my parents are from. And
right.
over there, the aspect of Islam is very different
Mm, mm,
because you have a lot of people over there. Majority of the people who are Muslims, they can't speak Arabic, they don't understand Arabic, they can only read Arabic and they can recite Arabic, right? So that already makes you a bit dogmatic, so because you're buying into something that you do not understand and you're relying on someone else to tell you about it. And plus there's a lot of impoverishment in Pakistan. There's a lot of lack of education, general education over there and stuff, and that makes it, as a country, makes it rife for any sort of ideology. Any
mm,
sort of ideology can easily permeate through that country. And what we see in the West is the spread of a particular kind of Islam that comes through these countries. Countries who are bit more dogmatic and stuff. So when I was the my doubts started at the age of, when I moved to Pakistan. w- Within that year, my doubts started happening because I started seeing an aspect of the religion
mm.
that I haven't thought about, because obviously I was young anyways, 15 years old and stuff, and I was like, I believed in it. I believed in everything about it. I read about, like, but obviously not enough. But those sort of interactions made me go deeper into the religion and start finding out. And when I start finding out, I started disagreeing with a lot of fundamentals. You know, my main doubt, sort of, I always had this doubt uh, with the intrinsic hatred of Jews, which was taught to us, and it didn't make sense to me because it didn't correlate that much with Quran itself. but only particular parts of it, and it's only there's layers within layers of scholars and hadiths and stuff like that where that hatred actually comes from, and it makes it very political if you think about it, like because they were the dominating force in that region before, and
mm,
Islam
mm,
was only created as a political tool to take over their places.
mm,
So, but in general, obviously at that age I didn't know anything about it. I hadn't met a single Jew. I didn't meet a single Jew till I came to England anyways. So, till
mm,
I was in my mid 20s. But I just refused to hate a group of people whom I had never met. And the more about whom that I read about, the more I admired them, because I was like, well, they have always been persecuted, but they were always persevered and they come out as better, like,
yeah,
and all the attainments within their religion, or like their culture more than their religion, is positive. So why it didn't make sense to me. But
yeah,
when 9/11 happened, that was a turning point. I didn't like change straight away, but that's like a major sort of like, oh, what the fuck is going on, basically. What is it? Because
what?
yeah, because the thing is, the reaction wasn't, oh my god, innocent people died.
Yeah,
The reaction was, yes, we have done a blow to the West, to America. And I was like,
yeah.
aren't like
I
your
still have,
whole,
I still have, I still have vivid memories of those. Right after the planes flew into the buildings, there were these guys, on flatbed trucks riding through these neighborhoods, handing out candies and shouting at the top of their
the
lungs,
same thing that's
Allah
just
Akbar,
happened.
Allah
That
Akbar.
Yeah,
The
and the
same,
same thing that just happened on the 7th of October, and then they say, oh, it's not all Muslims. Like,
yeah,
come on, stop kidding yourselves. Okay, I know the underpinning philosophy under it. They hate the West, they hate the
yeah.
Jews, they hate the Christian, they hate everyone who's not
Mhm.
a Muslim. That's why they want to kill anyone who leaves the religion. But that was
It's
the point.
totalitarian, but at the root court, it's at the root of the matter. It's a totalitarian
Yeah, yeah.
outlook.
It's
Complete,
because the thing is, people in the West cannot understand this because they think from a liberal point of view, right?
yeah,
And I often say there is no liberalism outside of West. They don't
yeah,
think like you, so stop. Like, they don't think about the individual first, so stop matching your emotions and your thoughts with them, because it's a different perspective.
yeah,
The thing, the philosophy or the ideology that comes close to Islam, to understand it, is communism. So that's exactly what Islam is. you know
yeah.
Islam is Islamism is probably communism, and Islam
Mhm.
is Marxism that is based on it.
Right.
So it's sort of like these are the underpinning things that takes away your individual liberties, and
Yeah,
takes away all your freedoms and stuff, because they don't matter, and it's towards a singular goal, and that's the
yeah,
goal of all the Muslims. So what
right.
happened after 9/11? I would like We used to have like a sort of like a morning parade or assembly, in the morning, and
Mm.
our principal led the cheers for the death of people, and they made us all cheer for it, like the 9/11 attack and stuff. And that was such a weird experience, because here I was in school, and there's the head principal of my school, and is leading the cheers, you know and then all the other stories that used to be fed to us, that Islam is a religion of peace, and it wants to promote peace, and it cares about people, how the Prophet Muhammad used to care about people. He used to say, don't kill the innocent people and stuff, and about the crusades, about what was that guy, Muhammad, and whatever his name was. I'm forgetting his name, starts with M. And how he spared the people when he took over finally and won, like, the mum I think so it was the Mamluk dynasty that he started after taking over Jerusalem and stuff. All of this, like, how could my religion, then I thought, how can people from my religion start
Mm.
celebrating the death of civilians? Because you said this doesn't match up. It doesn't matter if they are enemies or not, even though we are taking aid from them every single bloody year, you know and that's how our country is sustained. That's what I was thinking at that time. So it just so many contradictions that came up. but the
Mm,
underpinning was the true face coming out, this face of hatred, you know.
yeah,
And I was like, yeah, that's when my doubt started happening, that this
right.
is something else. This is, there is no spirituality within it. And that's why I went to Sufism afterwards, because I was trying to find something good.
Yeah. Isn't that there's different schools of Islam now that you mentioned the word Sufi? I was thinking there's the Wahhabists, then there's and I'm I'm gonna I'm gonna butcher it because I've only heard it in passing, but apparently some of them are more inclined to be extremely brutal in
But
enforcing the
Dean,
codes of.
there's Marxists, there's neo-Marxists, there's third wave feminists, there's progressive. That they're
So,
all the same, right? The
okay,
underpinning, you know, and that's how people need to think about it. It doesn't matter. These are all distractions from the actual cause, what is
yeah,
underpinning there. That this is something that is not good for us. So no matter how many layers of shit that we put on it, it's still
yeah,
gonna remain shit, right? So
yeah,
this is the
yeah,
problem with it. So and there's different sects of it, and they say, oh, Islam has been reformed, but Islam has never been reformed. It has
right,
only been added on. There's only
right,
add-ons. The core has always remained the same. So the core is, everything is the same. The core remains the same. The only where a sect of Ahmadis, where the core is a bit different, where they believe their prince, whoever it is the continuation of the prophet.
right,
That's a
right,
deviation from the core itself, and that's why Muslims don't consider them as Muslims.
right,
And I would
right,
argue, like, not that I don't I like them because they're more moderate. But the thing is, technically they're not Muslims, because the underpinning philosophy of Islam is, the shahada, that you say that
yeah.
when you
There's
become a
only one
Muslim,
God.
there's
His
one
name
God,
is
and
Allah, and His
yeah,
prophet.
and the
Blah,
prophet is
blah,
the
blah.
last prophet. So if you're
Okay.
saying, so that is important, right? The
So
second
that's
part is
actually
important.
heresy. The Muslims must consider the Ahmadis as heretics.
Yeah, and most of the time they treat them the same as ex-Muslims. So
Right.
there was a movement in Pakistan. The thing is, in the creation of Pakistan, Ahmadis actually funded a lot of money. The
Right.
whole movement of Pakistan was funded by them. Like, not all of it, like, but they were heavy donors in there. But the
Yeah.
Pakistanis, as soon as, I think so, the turn happened during the Russian, the Soviet, and Afghan war.
Okay.
When that's when Islamism came in to Pakistan heavily.
Yeah.
And the Pakistanis started becoming radicalized because of that general, the army general, General Zia, I think so his name was. um he brought in the madrasas that you didn't used to be before, the madrasas, and heavily, this stuff, and the Islamic studies and stuff like that. And that's when they started going against the Ahmadis, like, you're
Mm-hmm.
not Muslims, and they started treating like them.
Mm-hmm.
All the time there's like a lot of campaigns against them that happens in Pakistan. It happens all the time, against Hindus, against Christians, against Ahmadis, like, yeah, just not a nice place to live over there. So
Mm-hmm. It always strikes me when I look at the history of religion. I consider, Islam is maybe in its late teenage years.
it's not. I don't believe that.
But if you compare it, comparatively speaking, like the Christianity is a bit older, Judaism is even a bit older, and you can more or less see, if you compare it to how a human ages and matures. When you are in your early 20s, you are full of hormones and you just want to grab everything. And as you age, you more or less mellow out.
See,
By
they, like, I used to think that, but if
yeah,
we think about it, Islam is only 600 years younger than Christianity, right?
yeah, it's not that much in the big
The,
scheme
the,
of things.
so 600 years ago, Christianity was not like Islam today.
No.
Probably 1,000 years ago, maybe Christianity was like Islam today.
Mm,
600 years ago is when we started having the the Enlightenment era, or like the basis of it started happening, right? So, but there was
Right.
something within Christianity that allowed it to happen. That
Yeah.
they that the core of Christianity was not as dogmatic as Catholicism, right? So
Right.
because that was a control mechanism. So
Mhm.
when people started breaking from that, when they started going into the Protestant faiths and stuff, it started becoming mellower, and that sort of laid the foundations for the Western civilization to come out of the Protestant faiths and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Islam, that's why I say, like, they have a lot of different sects and stuff, but unless there's a reformation on the foundations of it, it will
Yeah.
never come to that age of maturity. Because there
Yeah.
was an era in Islam where there was the golden age of Islam, where the
Yeah.
Islam was very moderate, right? So, and they made a lot of advancement and stuff, and their societies were flourishing, and they were
Yeah.
questioning things, and they had doubt, just like the only religion that has doubt is
Mhm.
Judaism, like proper doubt, because they keep on questioning their faith and they think it's a good thing to keep on
Mhm.
questioning it. But that's what Islam started happening, and you have a lot of thinkers from that time, a lot of scientists from that time who were questioning things, who were saying,
Mhm.
oh, like moving away from dogmatism. But what they didn't do was reform the core. So
Yeah.
when they
Yeah.
didn't reform the core, when tragedy happened to those lands, they went down, they went again to their core. This is what
Yeah.
happens. And this will
Yeah.
not happen to Christianity now, right?
Yeah.
Maybe
It's
happen in America, but not like the rest of the West is not going to happen, because people have moved on from that kind of
yeah.
Christianity.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like Islam. When you, I don't know if you've ever been in a casino and
Yeah,
you've lost money, and then on the next round you put
yeah,
double as much because
yeah,
you want to make up
yeah,
for
yeah,
all the cash that you've lost. And it's almost like at every turn, Islam just doubles down.
yeah. And the thing is, like, and the thing is, they keep doubling down, and we keep on betting on them. Oh, no,
Yeah,
no, no, it's not all of them. Like, no, 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 they'll be, it's like, no, it's a folly, because like, it's actually harmful to the Muslims themselves. Uh,
yeah,
Most
yeah,
of these, like I was saying before as well, most of these groups that are in England, right? So I'm going to be a bit England specific, because I've been here. I left, for people who don't know, I left Pakistan after 9 years. I had
right,
to, right? Because
yeah,
the penalty of leaving Islam is death. So I had to leave.
yeah,
But I went to Britain then. So, I'm going to be specific to England in what I'm saying. Most of the groups that we have over here, the Islamist groups, or whatever they like to call themselves, they are banned in Arab states themselves. Okay, they're not
yeah,
allowed to bank in UAE. They're not allowed to bank in Saudi Arabia and all, because they don't want them, but we keep on taking them in the name of fucking diversity and inclusion, right? We keep screwing ourselves over. It's like, and we keep on thinking over here and in most of the West that every other culture than ours is better. And I
yeah,
keep saying, like, dude, like, equality doesn't work like that. Equality is that you give people the opportunity, but there are
correct,
better cultures than other, like, all cultures are not equal. Obviously,
mm,
some are fucked up, and some do
yeah,
not, some are not compatible with you, like.
yeah,
So you can come to the point and say, like, Islam in Saudi Arabia is working for them, right? For their
mm,
community, everyone is happy, whatever. Let's just assume that, right? And our
mm,
ideas of liberalism doesn't work on them, so we need to stop thinking like the woman over there would want the same thing. Let's assume those things, right, is working from them, so we
mm,
can agree that their culture is working from them from afar. We don't have to invite that to our own culture and then think
exactly,
like, oh, why is it not working with us? It's like,
yeah,
it's incompatible, so you have to tell that culture, if you're coming over here, you play by our rules or you don't play. Simple. Because that would be the same if we were to go over there. They will say
exactly,
play by our rules or don't play, and they have every single right to say that, right?
and of
Whatever.
course,
This is
of course,
as well, like this bleeding heart liberals that we get sometimes, right? So it's sort of like, look, you're not going to change their culture from outside. Their own people have to revolt against it. What is happening in Iran and stuff, that is the best thing that you can do. What we can
Yeah,
do is not give their extremists um, a place to operate. We need to
yeah.
stop doing that. You know, I forgot what your question was, anyways.
No, but this is fascinating because we share a lot of the same viewpoints on this, and everything that you're saying resonates so loudly within me. And at every sentence, like 20 different things come up that I wanted to prompt you on. But I remember distinctly. I don't remember who said it. But somebody was, I think it was an online debate. This is a couple of years ago that I heard it, when somebody said, trying to explain free speech or freedom of expression or something like that to a Muslim is like trying to explain gravity to a cockroach.
Yeah,
You have to exert the
might be
force.
easier to go cockroach. Yeah,
Yeah, you have to exert the force in order for them to actually
yeah,
experience it. And that's just I find it fascinating because like you said earlier, if you look back a couple of centuries ago, I mean, entire fields like algebra, the Muslim world was at the forefront of innovation, of scientific discovery, astronomy, and these kind of fields. A lot of the things that we consider commonplace nowadays had their roots in that Middle Eastern culture.
yeah,
And for some reason, something just went horribly wrong somewhere
yeah.
along the way. there
You
must
know,
be there must be a turning point somewhere.
one thing we do have to realize, because sometimes people overplay their importance about the Islamic golden age on the West,
Mm,
right? A lot of the things that they did were theories, they were not practical things, right? And their
right.
theories were not right as well.
Not
So there
complete.
were
Yeah.
only few things that they actually came up with, practicality things that they actually work, right? But
Yeah.
regardless, it doesn't matter. The underpinning thing was that the Islamic State was prosperous. And
Right.
keep coming back to that point. Look at Saudi Arabia now, right? So I have a lot of, you know, um, things to say against Saudi Arabia for obvious reasons, because the center of all the, crap where it comes from. But at the same time, if they change, then other people change. And
Mm, mm,
what are they trying to do now? Their people are becoming more and more prosperous. They want to play in the wider field. They want to go out because they have realized the oil is not gonna be there forever. It's time to wake up, right? So they are taking the lead from UAE, United Arab Emirates, and they are branching out. And the more they're trying to branch out, they're seeing that the extremism doesn't help them, because the rest of the world is not like really into it. So, and they're going to, like, for some reason, like, people don't like getting killed. Who knew?
people, yeah, I mean, like, what's wrong with like, what's wrong with you?
Like,
Why don't you like to submit?
oh, Habibi, you don't like getting killed? Oh, I'm sorry. It's like, who knew? But, so we have to, but we cannot we cannot have them think that we bend over for them, right? So this is the time that we are even more stronger than we were before. And at times I say, like, this is the time as well, for this reason why I am not an atheist, right? So I was when I left Islam,
Right.
because I was leaving such a thing where I had to have strong opinions to actually leave it. But when
Yeah.
I left it, it took me a long time to reshape my identity, and I
Yeah.
came out a bit different from that. I realized what was important to me, what were the actual
Mm,
differences I had and disagreements I had with the religion, and I went away. Like, the foundations is what I didn't believe in.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't believe in the religion, but my idea of God is sort of like, um, I can best describe it as something that I might write about at some later point, is that if there is a God, then there is no religion. And if there's a religion, then there's no God. right? So
So deism.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I put God outside of it because for me, God is like the unknown. So for me, hedging my bets either way, definitively, it doesn't make sense to me because I have room for doubt. But I can say there's no need for God, right? So there's no need for the God of religion because it doesn't make sense to
Yeah,
me. If I were a God as well, I would be very indifferent to human beings. It's like,
exactly.
because there's so much shit going on. Like, I'm creating so much stuff. Like, why
Exactly.
would I be concerned with this? Like,
Exactly. It's like, why would the most prominent thing on the mind of God be female dress code?
yeah, exactly. Like, and whether you
Or,
should eat a
or
certain animal or not, like whether you
yeah,
should
or human
drink a certain drink.
sexuality. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
why would God care where
Yeah.
you put your pee pee?
But
It's like,
that is not to say that we might not, if there is a God, that we might not be important to God, right?
yeah,
And that we
yeah,
might not have a connection to God, but it depends what the God is. So if we claim God to be an entity, then we are, like, I think so, that's where I have a problem. It's like you don't know if God is a thing or God is a feeling or God is a connection. So
right.
it's like the
It's a,
God for
it's
me
a,
is a placeholder name. It's
yeah,
not a person, it's not a thing.
exactly. It's, sometimes I get the feeling that we label ignorance.
Mm, mm,
We give ignorance some kind of agency
yeah,
because we are deeply uncomfortable with ignorance as a
yeah,
species, because
yeah,
it's goes against our survival.
yeah, we need to
So
know.
we need to know because we feel
Yeah,
safe and secure when
yeah,
we
we
do.
need to
So
know
when
what's
we
behind the bush. We have to, is it
exactly,
danger
because
or is it not? Yeah,
if you didn't know what's behind the bush on the savannah, you were dead.
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
so it makes sense from an evolutionary standpoint,
Yeah.
and um,
That's why tribalism and even to an extent racism is understandable through evolution and the
yeah,
reasons for it. That's why I was like, there's some reason why people have these things, and that is all for survival. And that is why we have created God as well, because it was needed for survival. And by the look
exactly.
of it, if I see the world right now of what godlessness has done to
Mm,
people who cannot think about morality on their own,
mm, mm,
and I'm saying, well, you know what, God is important for survival of human species because of that reason, not
mm,
because God is real, but which means that unknown part is not God itself. That unknown part is a sense of collective understanding of what's going
right.
on. It could be rules, it could be, but we don't understand rules. We don't understand, like, oh, you do this, you do that, you do that. We understand through stories.
Mm,
So these narratives have to be built in, and then
yeah,
they seep into us, and then we keep repeating these stories. It's like, oh, look what happened to Noah, what happened over there, what happened over there, and and they become true. So
yeah,
that metaphorical truth is
yeah,
more important for us to understand what's going on. But it's the
right.
separation of the metaphorical truth and factual truth is what is needed, which is what Christianity did best. That's why people could connect with it and
Mm,
yet not believe in everything, like, yet not, like, come out of the fact that we can have slaves, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Or of 6,000 years ago, Mudman and Rip Woman and the talking
hmm,
snake in the garden.
yeah.
It's,
And this is the reason why when people say, like, how can scientists be Christians, it's like this is the reason why they can be, because it's sort of like believing or understanding um uh the Greek mythologies, right?
mm,
So, but not believing that Zeus was real, but understanding the lessons that were told within it, they
mm,
have some truth to us. And it's more about traditions. But also, the problem happens of different versions of Christianity on different regions, right? Because we can't talk globally about this. I'm talking
yeah,
more from the point of view of England, where Christianity is, and the sense of Christianity in the population is very different,
mm,
right? In America, with evangelical Christians, if I was there, I would be completely opposed to Christianity. I was like, no, no, no,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not having any of it
I have a
because it's
theory.
not a community. Yeah.
Momus, I have a theory, and I want to bounce this
Mhm.
off you and see if it lands. Right? I am of the opinion that the closer you get to the equator, the more fervent you are religious. And I don't know whether it's got something to do with your proximity to the sun and UV radiation, or just a lack of moisture in the air. But if you look at it, the it seems to be centered around the equator with
Well, I don't
closer
know.
to,
Like, I think this. It could be.
I'm
It
obviously
could be
being
because, like,
flippant.
yeah, obviously, yeah. I mean, like that wouldn't explain the Nordic Vikings, would they? So, because they were very
It's
religious
true.
in their way.
No, it's
I
very
think so.
strange.
Like, there's a place. There's a place for. I don't know if there's a place for religion as such, right? Because
Yeah,
um, but there's a place for something, and you can't. For me, you can't replace a set of values and just say they're not real, take them out, but have
yeah.
nothing in place for it. And that's
Right,
what some, like, I see some like atheists expecting that to happen. I was like, well, it's
right.
going to, because people are still going to look for God. Look at what like the woke ideology has brought upon us,
Yeah,
right? So why? Because people were looking for belonging. They couldn't find it in the churches
yeah.
anymore. They can't like connect with their community anymore. They start building global communities, right? It
Exactly,
doesn't work.
exactly.
Global
Yeah,
communities are
but
so
this is the,
disconnected.
but this is the thing. I see. I hear 100% what you are saying, and it's very valid. That um, I just think throughout history we've been so used to having this system. It's almost like built into society and built into human beings that whenever we lose it, we feel like we're missing
Yeah,
something. Where it is actually the other way around. When
yeah,
we discard religion, we are free to find
hmm,
something that
yeah,
is universally
yeah,
beneficial to everybody. I mean, systems of morality like secular humanism,
hmm,
where
yeah,
the value of human beings
yeah.
is the
Which I
dominant.
would like relate myself. Like that is what I am.
Yeah,
You
and
know.
and 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 it adds it highlights the value that we as have
Hmm.
as people, where religion is the complete antithesis.
Yeah.
This
Well, I
world
don't.
and the
You
people
know.
around you are just a doormat on which you wipe your feet before you
Hmm.
hit Jannah and your virgins.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think so. There's yeah, you distracted me with virgins, but um
And
they,
rivers of wine. Don't forget the rivers of wine. Rivers of wine and huri.
yeah,
And
you can't have wine over here, but you can have wine over there. Like, this is such a like, this is the, one of the fundamental, like, I'm gonna deviate somewhere. This is the
go for it.
fundamental um um problems I had with issues I had with Islam, right? Is the nature of sexual deviance within it, right? This perversion, sexual perversion that is there, right? The prophet marrying a 6-year old, right, and consummating his marriage when she was 9 years old. He married someone who was 20 years older than him. This is like, not because of love, like he said,
But
was
she was
she was the richest person.
she was the one with the
Yeah, he
what
married
was
for
it? That
money. It's
was
like, okay, good for you.
Khadija,
Yeah,
right?
but the thing is, Khatija. Yeah,
Yes.
so yeah, so he married her for her money, for her business. So
Right.
him and his uncle went around and did her business for her, but they went all around everywhere, and he picked up all these stories from there. People say like, oh, he's illiterate, so how can he make up these stories? Like, he wasn't stupid. Okay.
Mm, mm.
And he might be, maybe, who knows if he was literate or not literate. Like, come on, he's doing businesses, he must have been dealing with so many things. He probably wasn't, or who knows, at that time the literacy was not probably that important, whatever. But his like, and Khatija's someone like cousin or whatever, he was a priest as well, right, in Christianity or something. They were in between, they like, some a different sect of Christianity and stuff. And with him he built this religion to take over the Jews. There's a
Right.
lot of verses within, because all the Arab knows, because it's in the Quran, right, that those lands where Israel is are the
Yeah.
lands of Bani Israel, which is the children of Israel, right? So the Islamic mythology says Abraham had two kids, right? Israel and Ishmael, you know,
Right.
and something of that sort. And the Muslims are from the other brother, basically,
Right.
who he
From
sent like
Ishmael's.
the other
Okay.
son who he sent out, and he said, like, he said to Israel that you would have, or Ishmael, sorry, Ishmael was the Jews, and Israel, oh, whatever the hell, whatever, doesn't
Yeah,
matter, right?
I get it.
One kid, yeah, one kid was. He said he gave him the kingdom of that Bani Israel, children of Israel. The other one, he said he will go and develop a kingdom in Arab. So
Right.
that's what Muhammad wanted, right? So he created this fake history, like a good Marxist that he was, way before Marxist, you know, and he made this fake history within there to insert himself,
Right.
right? And then insert their rights, and then God is constantly speaking to Jews like, weren't we good to you, wasn't I good to you, blah blah blah, stuff like that, I gave you those lands and stuff. So he's telling them like, come to us, right? Before, Muslims used to pray uh, in the direction of Israel, where the dome is,
Right.
right? Where the Al Aqsa they eventually built
Right.
afterwards, where the dome is, because that's when where Abraham was sacrificing his son, and God said like, cut that shit, right? So there is the
Yeah.
holy dome, right? So
Right.
Muslims
Right.
used to pray over there, but after a while, he said like he went on his like that winged donkey or whatever from
The
that point.
Burak.
Yeah, yeah. From that point up,
They
right?
Muslims hate it when you ask them about Burak. They
They hate
this is
whenever you ask them anything that is
no, but
like makes them think.
I've asked, I'm all over Facebook, all these
Yeah,
debate groups about religion.
yeah,
I feel like a cat that's playing with a
yeah,
mouse before I eat it, right? But
yeah,
I love to ask them to explain Burak to me,
yeah,
and it's, usually you see the dots when somebody's typing.
yeah,
You see
yeah,
they're typing like,
yeah, yeah.
and then
I
as
mean,
soon as you
I
ask that,
don't, I don't have a problem with fiction, right? So because it's
yeah, but
based on the thing is, but it's not original. That's what I get pissed off at, right? That is not original. You took it
the
from
thing is,
Abrahamic.
we
You
also
took it from is Pegasus. You took it from Greeks because you used to go over there and you used to trade for Khadija over there. You heard these stories about Pegasus.
right.
It's not
But
like coming to you.
the thing is, where do the issue that I have with this whole aspect of blending myth with history and spirituality is that there is no clear delineation between them. It's done
Yeah,
very ad hoc.
yeah,
People will decide ad hoc, no, this was spiritual,
yeah,
or this was a
yeah,
metaphor. Like
yeah,
God speaks in mysterious words
yeah,
that we cannot understand,
yeah,
and if we
yeah,
had to understand the mind of God, our brains
yeah,
would explode.
yeah. See,
It's just,
that's why I'm for separating those things and
yeah,
taking God out of religion, but
yeah,
still maintaining that there might be a God. So you can
yeah,
still believe in a God. You can still like donate him to whatever, denote him to whatever you want to,
yeah,
right? But you
yeah,
can't simultaneously say that there's a God out there who you cannot understand, but then you have a religion that tells you how to understand him. It's like that that doesn't make sense to me. If he's out of your understanding, then he's clearly out of your understanding,
yeah,
and he's going to remain there. So and he's not supposed to be reasonable then. And this is the other problem that I like. So just to finish that, so they used to pray towards Al-Aqsa, then
right,
eventually they changed their direction towards Mecca,
yeah,
towards the Kaaba that they pray towards now,
right,
right?
right,
So there was a political shift that happened, that they said, okay, no, we are no longer appeasing them anymore because they're not listening to us. They won't give us their, they won't convert to Islam anymore. We're going
right,
to war. So there was like, okay, I can't build my mythology on this, I need to separate it. So there's a lot of political things, and Islam is very it sort of like tries to be very practical, in nation building, right? So it's this is like
Yeah.
pure nationalism within Islam,
Mm,
right?
mm,
And this is what it's like people, the Muslims actually pride themselves on it. But for
mm.
me, it's sort of like that's a delineation from divinity of God, if the God is trying to be so practical, right? So when there's a thing within Islam where you can lie to protect
Takia.
yourself, and yeah, you can lie for various reasons, and that was a point for me. It's like, no, 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 God cannot tell you to lie. god is
Mm,
God is not reasonable. God is expecting you to reach a moral standard that you actually cannot reach. He knows that. But the job is to strive. That process of trying to reach that morals, remove God, put anything over there, is the same thing. It's a strive towards trying to reach the excellence. It's
mm.
not the excellence itself that matters, right? So
Right,
you
right.
can lie to protect yourself, then you commit a sin, and then you can ask God for forgiveness. But what
Mm,
you cannot do is have a God say that is okay. It's like, well,
right.
it can't be okay. Either murder is okay or is not
It's
okay
not,
in the
yeah.
circumstances. It's like, for you it should not be that. And even up to a point that I don't think so God should say that murder is okay in any circumstances, even to
Yeah,
defend yourself. But you have to take that practical step and you have to do it, and then ask God for forgiveness. Because you know what happens then? I'm just thinking on the fly about this because I haven't thought
yeah.
about it before. So what happens when then is, if you kill someone to defend yourself, you know you have committed a sin, because God did not does not like that. So you will ask God for forgiveness, and that means that you will have remorse. Even though you killing someone will build a remorse in you.
Yeah.
So naturally you would not be inclined towards it. But when a God permits murder, permits war, permits all these,
Encourage,
yeah,
encourages and
to,
sanctions it.
yeah,
Yeah.
to protect him, then then that God has deviated from divinity. So I think so. I don't know. I need to think about this a lot more because it
But
just
this is the
got up in
problem.
my mind. Yeah.
This is the whole problem with organized religion, Momus, is that we never have God telling us these things. We have men
Mm,
who tell
yeah.
us,
Yeah.
what gods want and what
Yeah.
gods think and what God's
Yeah.
preferences are,
Yeah.
who God's favorite people is, what
Yeah.
God's favorite area of the planet is.
Yeah.
And that is where the I don't want to call it perversion or whatever, but it's like it's we every single human being has this built-in sense of the numinous. You cannot stand outside at night and look up at the sky and
And not be in
experience
awe. Yeah.
and be in awe about how insignificant you
Yeah.
are in the grand scheme of things. Like we've got that built into us for
Hmm.
some evolutionary means. But the problem comes when there are those among us who love power and who love control, and they
There are many of them.
spot they spot a weakness within the system, and they will be very quick to exploit it at their own benefit. Firstly, and secondly, at the detriment of the people who are are being conned into the system. Look, at the end of the day, I am a big proponent of agnosticism because
Yeah.
you cannot some things are not knowable.
Yeah.
Like at the moment, we don't know where everything came from. We don't know how everything came to be, how everything started. And it's okay to say I don't know. I love saying I don't know because that gives me the opportunity to admit my ignorance and start from a blank slate where I can learn and build on things. But what I have very big problems with is those amongst us who claim to know the unknowable.
Hmm.
And then, in addition to that grandiosity, they put authority into the mix.
Yeah.
I am the man speaking for
Yeah.
God. I am the
You
prophet
know
who
what?
knows.
This is something that has disturbed me since COVID, that has come into science.
Right.
This, like this sort of saying, oh, when in America, when Fauci came out and he said, "I am science," I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" You have crossed the line. There's always
Exactly.
doubt. There's always doubt. Like, it doesn't matter if it's
Yeah.
a particular thing is established or is not established. It's established now. At one
Mm,
point, people didn't think evolution. They used to laugh at evolutionary theory, right?
mm,
So
mm.
how
I
we?
don't come from a monkey.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you came from monkey. Your own parents came from onion. You know. So, but like there is that this dogmatic approach, and that's why I've reverted to calling myself an agnostic when I'm pushed, and not an
Mm,
atheist anymore. It's
mm,
because of the reason, because I see arrogance on all sides, because they
yeah.
have, for them, they have discovered everything. you know
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
I so if you discovered everything, then there's nothing to discover. Oh, you have discovered the truth. So
Yeah.
for those sort of atheists, it's only materialist world, and we're just going to die, just our bodies, and just we do whatever.
Yeah.
It leads to hedonistic ideology, or just as much pleasure as you can. Who cares? Don't have kids, have kids, doesn't fucking matter. Like, I'm gonna live my life, and like, to the fullest and stuff, whatever
Yeah.
the hell that means. And that is meaningless life. That is
Right.
like without a purpose, without anything. It's like, well, we are not supposed to gather materials. Like, who the hell do you see doing that? Any other animal do you see doing that?
Mm,
Just, it's our purpose is like, main purpose of humanity is very much to do with connection and maintaining a connection. And this is why we keep coming back to religions, or what. There's
I, I
something that
I
connects
actually have
us.
a different perspective on this. I'm sorry to interrupt you mid sentence,
Mm-hmm.
but I have to get this out before I forget it. Right?
Yeah.
We are the only species that behaves exactly like a virus does.
Mm.
Do you know that? It's like we will go into an environment, we will consume all the resources at our own risk of
Yeah.
of not having resources in. And there's only one other type of organism that behaves like that, and that's a virus.
Mm.
So virus will go in, it will decimate the host at its
I,
own
I, I
cost.
would I would slightly temper that thought, because I think so. This leads a lot of people towards extensionism, right? So that
Yeah,
we should not be here, and I think so that's a danger, because then they then leads people to say, oh, we shouldn't be having more kids. There should be less humans. It would be better if there's less humans and stuff. It's like, you do not know the purpose. Stop like
yeah,
doing that. There are things that happens within nature and stuff, right? There's a reason why we are more of us, and we are increasing. It might be that we are it's going to push us to become, interplanetary species and
yeah.
stuff. Like, there's
I mean,
always a reason.
it's gonna be that, or we're gonna have to eat rocks.
Yeah.
We're
But
gonna have to.
that's where human ingenuity comes from. Like, I saw in Singapore, they
Yeah,
don't have any land or stuff to grow. They have started growing in buildings, and they have, like, they're growing natural food. It's not GMO, it's nothing,
right.
like, no gene manipulation or whatever. They've started growing like that, and it's feeding their communities and stuff. There is rooms for ingenuity, I think so. Like, sometimes we become, um maybe sometimes people live too much in cities, and they have so many people around them that they feel suffocated, and they're like, oh, I just wish there was less of people. But
Yeah,
one thing that we know is that we know through COVID that when there aren't people around us, we feel suicidal and we start killing ourselves. and,
mm,
and that is my thing. It's like connection.
yeah.
Human to human connection is so fucking important. It
It's very
cannot
important.
be overestimated. Like, is so
Yeah,
important. People literally, the what is the biggest punishment that you can give to people in prison?
isolation.
Exactly. Why is that? People just start, they crave this. And this is why we created communities, the tribes, and religions and stuff, because so that we can, it's some way for us to come together. And that is the reason why I've been telling people in England, go back to your churches, not
Yeah,
because to believe in God, but because you're losing your sense of community.
connection.
Yeah, you're arguing with people on social media, who
But
who it's like we need
this is the
proof.
thing, Momus, is like, I get it. They are people have book clubs. People have
Yeah,
been having book clubs for ages, but these people take the book club too far.
yeah.
They've they've
No, I completely
they
agree with
take
that.
it. They
You know
just
what?
read the one book. They do fan fiction about the one book. They have cosplay about the one book.
But you
It's
know what the problem is with those things, like they are very interest specific, right? So there's a particular kind of books. So I'm like part of a cricket club, so we go and, like, play this way. Someone would have a snooker club and stuff like that. Something like a church brings all together, right? So
yeah,
regardless of that, so what would have been really good is a long time ago when we were, you know building the enlightenment era, would have been to build an enlightened church,
mm,
you know. So right now that would have been the biggest sort of religion, a non-religion religion. But it's not, because atheism is not like for everyone as well.
yeah.
And not everyone is, it's not, it's not
It
a
comes
matter
with
of
a lot of
equality.
baggage. That label of
No,
atheist.
but
It
it's a
comes.
lot of about capacity as well. Like, we have a huge number of people. It's not as if like they have less human value, but they're not equal in intellect, right? So they cannot come to those moral, um those moral standards and stuff within their own head. they
Yeah,
need they need a set of rules, they need a set of guidance. They are good people, but, like, they need that.
not very
They
deep
need that
thinkers.
sense.
Yeah,
Not every single person is gonna read books on philosophy and stuff, like, read Nicomachean ethics and, like, just delve. It can't happen. So they will naturally depend on a person, uh
mm,
you know and then it will depend on that person's personality and their intentions of how they lead people. That's why we have so many conspiracy theories. So someone are good, someone are, like, leading people to a different sort of rabbit holes, because we cannot read ourselves. We are appointing people to read it for us, which is what
mm,
happens in priest. But when you have a system, when you have like a codex, like, so you can always refer back to it, and you can
mm,
always know that when a person is going a bit further away from it, there's something wrong. Which is what happens now in particular part of churches and stuff, is when you see a priest going a bit too wacky, you can say, like, okay, this is not part of the religion and stuff, right? So
yeah,
obviously that would not fit in America, and that would have to fit in a place where the level of education is an attainment of education is better. Which is why in England that has gone down as well, because people are not the same as they were 50 years ago, and we
yeah.
have imported people
Come
a
to
lot from other
Africa,
parts of the
Mohammed.
country.
You must come to Africa. We make them wild here. We have got pastors who place phone calls to heaven mid sermon, and
See, this is the point. Like, a lot of your listeners, I'm guessing they would be in South Africa and Africa. They would not relate to what I'm saying, right? They would naturally say, like, Christianity and all the other sects of Christianity, especially like Jehovah's Witness or whatever. They are like a source of, mental illness for people, and they deviate people from actual things. And that's why I said at first, I'm saying it from a very English point of view, where
yeah,
our church,
I, I get it.
where most of our priests don't believe in God themselves, right? So
Yeah,
they're agnostic themselves. It's a different thing. We have to have traditions, and Africa needs to have its own traditions. See, one of the other reasons I have deviated
thank you,
way too
England.
much from whatever
Just,
questions
just,
you were
just,
asking.
just so, by the way, thank you, England, for all the religion that you dumped on us. Yeah, you came bearing the gift of religion in the one hand, and and left with all the gold and diamonds when
Yeah,
you were gone.
well, rule
They
Britannia.
probably did the same. They did the same thing everywhere. The English are famous for doing that. I mean, wherever they went, in the 16, 17, 1800s. It was, they were like the Vikings of that era.
Yeah,
They
you
just
know
went
what?
and
You know,
plundered.
this is a very interesting thing, because when I was growing up, obviously Kuwait didn't have that much animosity towards America or towards Britain, but because my parents were from Pakistan, we had a Pakistani community around, and they were very anti-British, and
Yeah.
but I always admired the Brits, right? Since I was young. Even though the whole community was telling me to hate the British because, oh, they conquerors, blah blah blah, whatever the fuck, right?
Yeah.
I always admired them because I was like, dude, they did it, right? I
Yeah.
mean, the sun never set on their empire. Any single civilization who would have had that opportunity would have done the same and even worse, right? So
Yeah.
this is what I try telling people. They were very temperate in what if Genghis Khan did that, he would have fucking killed the whole world. He would have completely killed the whole world, right? So there's degrees of what you can think about it.
Mm.
I have admiration for them, and that's why I like sort of connected with Britain so much and
Mm.
wanted to come over here way before. Like I was British before I came to Britain, right? In my head,
Right.
because I was like, this is such a tiny island.
Yeah.
Can you even? It's such a tiny island, and it like you can be pissed off at them, but you actually have to be ashamed of yourself. As
Yeah.
countries
Yeah.
and nations and as peoples, such a tiny island fucked you guys over,
Yeah.
the whole bloody world.
I
You
know.
gotta admire that. Like, you gotta say, like, okay, some things that happened were
And
bad,
you think, you think to yourself, what we see, like the common British people. You're right, governor.
yeah, it's like these nice
They
people and
conquered,
stuff.
they conquered the whole fucking world.
Yeah, it's so weird. And there were obviously there were bad things and stuff, but everyone else, people don't see things in relative comparisons. Like,
Yeah.
if any other culture around that time would have been doing the same, if Portuguese had that much time, the Portuguese were very brutal, and Spanish in South America way more than the English were. The English in the Americas, after a while, they started um forming alliances with Native Americans because they said, oh, it's actually their lands. So it was
Yeah.
actually the colonists who were against the English, but the English were like, no, it's their lands, like, they should have it. But people
Mhm.
sort of forget those things
Mm.
because, like, a little bit of few
One
things
of
in
our
there.
neighboring countries here was colonized by Portugal, and just to the northeast,
Mm,
Mozambique, and the just the I mean, it's like comparing apples and oranges.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just too different.
That's
I
what
mean,
people do. That's what civilizations do. That's what
yeah,
empires do. And anyone else who would have that opportunity would have done the same. This is what I tried telling Pakistanis. The nature that you guys have, it would have been Hamas a million times over,
it's true.
because they dehumanize people so much. They dehumanize, this is the strand of Hamas, which people say, oh, the moderates don't have. It's like, it depends where the moderates are from. Okay,
Yeah,
if the
mm,
moderates are from particular countries where extremism is high, it's because they are moderates only until they are in majority.
yeah,
Then they are not moderates anymore, because there's no moderation in Islam. If you follow the core of Islam, that's
yeah,
what you're supposed to follow. The moderation makes you a non-Muslim, basically, in the same way, because there's levels in Islam, right? So you are a believer,
yeah.
or you are there's a level, forgot what it's called, munafiq or something.
Murtad, I'm a murtad. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So a murtad is like someone who doesn't, like, believe in stuff, and there's a munafiq and stuff, and it tells you about to be aware of those amongst you, because they pretend to follow Islam, but they don't really follow Islam. What is that alluding to? It's alluding to moderates. So Islam
Mhm.
is saying amongst that, were like the moderates are your enemies as well. That's why when you see like terrorism happens from like Taliban's or ISIS or whatever the fuck to the Muslim nations, people say, oh, why are they killing their own Muslims? Yeah, because
They're
Islam
too
tells
moderate.
them that they are enemies. The moderates are enemies,
You
right? So It's so many
You're not,
levels of shit people don't
you're not,
understand.
you're not Islaming hard enough, bro.
Yeah,
Come
yeah,
here, let
yeah.
me cut
You're not
you.
raping enough. Like, just one rape in a year. That's not a good rap sheet. I mean, and this is how they are, you know. And we have to realize, like, we cannot think, like, I come back to that, we cannot assume that they think from our standpoints.
Yeah,
Our
yeah,
standpoints are different, and to say that Islam is a continuation of Abrahamic faith is false.
yeah,
In my point of view, it's a corruption of Islam, of Abrahamic faiths. It's a
yeah,
deep corruption of it because they want to take over something. Christianity was a moderation of on Judaism, because when you read the Old Testaments and stuff, you realize what God actually used to be, you know, and how
mm,
much Christianity mellowed it down. And then over time, because Christianity had that, within it, to mellow things down, it will eventually would have come to this point where we are now, but like I said, it would have been better if we had built a religion a long time ago, which would have had at least as much, even as much as Jehovah's Witness, 100 or so years, at least
yeah,
something,
yeah.
to be there.
So, Momus, do you think that reform is possible in Islam
Yes, yes,
at any
yeah,
stage?
yeah.
Because I've
We have to
listened
believe that.
to I've listened to people like Ayan Hirsi Ali who said it's never going to happen. It'll just never happen because of the fervor
Will
with
never
which
happen
they
and
were.
can happen are two separate things, though.
I know. But this
Yeah,
is
I know. I have a feeling as well. I
they
agree
are
with that. That will
challenges.
never
They are
happen.
you have to admit that there are mountainous challenges ahead of anybody who plans
Yeah.
to do any type of reformation, because I mean I can at the drop of a hat I can think of like 10 things that'll make Islam 500 times better.
I can tell you three things that will make reformations happen. Three things or something. I haven't counted it yet, so let me just put them out. Right. So the first thing is the break of Quran and Hadiths. Right. So
Separated.
yeah, separate them, break them apart, and say the Hadiths are actually not confirmed. So there's a lot of ambiguity on it. Don't take them as literal part of religion, right?
Yeah,
So you come to the
that's where
core.
the Burak is, and
Yeah, yeah. And then you bring the idea that you actually cannot understand God, right? So that means a lot of what God is saying is up to interpretation of other people. So bring the sense of what Christianity brought, the sense of metaphorical truths and factual edicts, right?
mm,
So you bring that in, those two things. The third thing, declare Sharia as not part of Islam, as actually
mm,
the antithesis of Islam, because Islam came as a personal religion. That's why there's no one priest in Islam, there's no pope in Islam,
mm,
because within the Quran it tells you that it is your responsibility to educate yourself. It's the responsibility of every man and woman to educate yourself. So
mm,
the metrics of reformation are
mm.
within the Quran. If you take what you can use and
So
ignore
is
sort
it
of the
just
rest.
stubborn? Are they just stubborn, or what?
No, because they lose control. So
Okay, so
but
it's a
who loses
control.
yeah, the terrorists lose control. They are, so the terrorists, they're not from any country,
Hmm.
as in currently, right? So they are like nomads. They are from separate countries and stuff, because they want to bring the caliphate back. The caliphate, all the rest of the Islamic countries do not want it,
Mm.
you know, because the if you bring caliphate, it's one Islamic state.
What is the end game with Islam? Is it
Everyone becomes Muslim.
a global caliphate and
Yeah,
everybody
yeah, yeah, yeah.
is
And you know
Muslim?
what?
So the end goal is homogeny.
End goal is everyone becomes a Muslim, and this is not just something to say. This is a fact for them. This is a promise from God to them,
Right.
right? A promise that will be fulfilled. That's why they're so
Ooh, I
dogmatic.
get chills down my spine when you say that.
But this is what people don't understand. That is why they are so sure about it, because they
Yeah,
believe everything that God has said is factual, right? There's
right,
no sense of metaphorical truths in there. So when God says that everyone will become Muslim, that is a promise, and they are the devices, the tools that will make the will of God happen, right? So
right,
it's incumbent on everyone to make it happen. So they can say, they can do their dawas, right? So they can go and spread Islam like the missionaries and stuff like that.
uh,
But the missionaries' reason for spreading Christianity were not the same.
no.
Like, they might not be good, but it's not. This is something else, right? So this is incumbent on. It's not incumbent on imams. It's incumbent on every single Muslim to
To do
spread the
dawah.
word of God, to spread the word of Allah, and make everyone Muslim. So God says, don't do it by sword. The sword part is more of the caliphs that used to do it, right? Some do it, some did it, some didn't. It says like through, like, show them through your nature, show them through your blah blah whatever the fuck, right? So, but the thing is, it people can take it no matter what, we gonna spread it, right? So when we gonna have resistance, don't worry, hold your ground, because God has promised this to us and it
Yeah,
will
yeah.
happen, right? So why
And
do I say,
what is the end game? Is it um
no? When everyone becomes Muslim, then it's the day of judgment.
okay?
That's it.
So then is Jannah coming to earth or what?
No, God is gonna say, okay, game over. That's it. Let's see. Let's tally up your scores and stuff and see where you're going. Everyone is gonna. So the thing is, before that happens, there's a lot of things that are supposed to happen, during the end. There's signs of every stupid religion has that. But what is going to happen, main thing is, Jesus is going to come back, because for Muslims, Jesus hasn't died, right? And they believe in Jesus as a prophet, and they don't believe Jesus to be the son of God, they believe Jesus to be the prophet of God, right?
Right, right.
And they refer to this a lot, like in Bible, it doesn't say anywhere that Jesus, like, doesn't claim that he's son of God. So they say this is where Christianity manipulated the Abrahamic faith. He wasn't supposed to be. They might be right in that, but
It's
it doesn't really
it's
matter.
all Christianese. It's all
You-
Christianese.
yeah, yeah,
Good luck.
yeah.
Good
So they
luck trying.
believe, so they believe that Jesus is going to come back, the second coming of Jesus. He's going to come back. He's
Right,
going to make everyone, he's going to become Muslim first, and he is going to lead the Muslim armies,
right.
right?
So,
So people,
what does that look like? Is he going to say the Shahada and
I have no idea.
so
But they
nobody knows?
also, you know what, they also say that Iblis, which is the main Satan,
Yeah, yeah.
he's going to come as well, and he's going to pretend to be Jesus, and a lot
Okay.
of people will follow him. So beware of the false prophet.
So there's a hole for a conspiracy theory here where
Oh
people
yeah,
can say, "Hey, 2,000 years ago,
yeah.
that was Iblis,
It's
and Isa is
plausible
still coming."
deniability built in. There's so many plausible deniabilities that are built into that. Like, that's why I'm saying God is so practical in there. That's what alarmed me, that this is
Yeah,
something else. Like, this is like future proofing it. So
yeah.
there's plausible
It's quite
deniability, and
ingenious, like you have to sit back at some stage, you
yeah,
have to stand back and go like, "Holy fuck,
yeah,
that was really, really inspired." The way
yeah,
that the way that you saw that they were going to tap dance around this
yeah,
story,
yeah.
that you plugged all these holes, my friend.
But
Tip
by
of
the
the
end of the
hand
day,
to you.
everyone who's created religions and parts of they were genius, right? Just
Yeah.
like Tolkien was a genius for creating Lord of the Rings and the whole mythology and everything around it.
Mm,
There is creativity within religion.
yeah.
Without it, you cannot. Without creativity, you cannot have a buy-in of people towards divinity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the whole point of God is the creator. Right?
Right.
God is not the administrator. He is the creator.
Right.
you know so, like, that's why we always fall for it, and we as human beings are the creators. That's why we differ from other animals, because we can think
Yeah.
and we can create, which they can't do. And the first point of evolution, how we see, oh, the monkeys are evolving more, oh, they're using tools, they're creating.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
the I actually forgot what I was actually really talking about, to be honest. But no, we
I,
were talking about the
yeah, I can
it,
talk to you. I can talk to you for hours because
the
I'm
reforms
really
that we were
enjoying
talking about. Yeah.
I'm really enjoying the conversation. But I do want to be mindful of our time and
Oh
our
shit.
viewers'
Yeah.
time as well. So I think I have to ask you this question before we wrap it up, because we need to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is radicalization and how easily Islam lends itself to radicalizing people to the extent where they're prepared to go into buildings and
Yeah.
blow themselves up and fly
Yeah.
planes into buildings.
Yeah.
You know, where does that come from? Does the root of that radicalization lie in the religion itself? Does it come from a particular figure in the religion? Hint,
The,
hint.
I would say like this is a very very long conversation, but
Right.
um Islam itself is the it doesn't it comes from Islam itself is a
So it's
radical religion because it came as a revolution. It, like,
expanding
not a
its itself.
revelation, it was a revolution rather than a revelation, because it was radical from whatever anyone was doing in the Arab. There was a lot of disarray, there was a lot of you know uh, unwanted behavior in the Arab communities in the world and stuff like that, and it came as a radical solution to change everything, right? So the radical nature of it, right, the Marxist nature of it is inherent. I very intentionally relate both of these things because this is where both of them meet, and this is where we are seeing a coalition of both of them. How does these people in the West become so radical? Then they want to do a French Revolution in a way that they kill everyone, and we
Mm,
feel good about it, right? So
mm,
these are the same roots of radicalization that are in Islam.
mm,
You know,
mm.
and this is why reforms are. But this is why I have to believe that reforms are possible and that they need to happen, because I cannot imagine, no matter what people believe in, that the only solution is for us to kill 1.6 billion people.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. No, I get that. I get that. It's also and I don't
Or
know what else
imprison
to
them
say.
or take their freedom. Killing would be like an
Yeah,
extreme form of it, but
but
whatever it might be, the other solution would be to exclude them, which I am now very much in favor of. And it's like, oh, you're far right, I don't give a shit, right? Whichever side I'm on, is I look for solutions, right? So the thing is, we have come to a
yeah,
point where we need to have civilizational societal exclusions, that
yeah,
this is an ideology and this is a people that do not want to play the game,
yeah,
right? They want to just rip off the whole fucking board game. They don't
yeah.
even want, they're not just not playing by the rules, they don't even want to play the game. They want to
Yeah.
rule the game, right? So we have to say, okay, you know what, get out, behave yourself, and once you have sorted out your mania,
Mhm.
then you can come back and play with us.
It's
It's
almost
come
in
to
the
that.
way that you would have to deal with it like you would deal with a petulant child.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you
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 can't have it. It's like, just
or
slap them around. You can't have it.
yeah, or like
Tolerance without temperance, it leads to this
gravity of the
problem.
cockroach. That's the only
Yeah,
thing that's going to
exactly. And you know what?
boot.
There's so many good, like, the reason why I go against Islam is not because I hate Muslims, right? This is very
Yeah.
important to note, right? Because it might come off like how I'm saying it, that I hate them. Like, I grew up with them. These are my people. Like, I care for them. And I've seen when I've lived over there, why was I trying to spread the message when I was in Pakistan, even though it risked my life in some way? you know because I care for them. It's like, I know they can be so much better than they are. I know they can be such a force for good in this world, but it's just, they need to come out of it, they need to be jolted out of it.
Mm.
And if we keep on pandering to their insanity, we can't. And this is the same reason what I saw, like, why I'm against all this woke crap, because we pandering to people's mental illness.
mm,
to a point where we can't even agree what is a man and what is a woman. Give me a fucking break. you know
mm.
when you come to that point, then obviously you can't deal with the Islam problem as well, because we are not in
We're
in
not living in
agreement
the
on
same
basic
reality.
reality.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're not living in the same reality.
Yeah. And they can see it as well, that even though these people are being completely obnoxious, all the pronoun peoples, you know that they cannot deal with it. They don't see that as compassion, they see that as weakness. The world outside ours does not believe in liberalism. They don't have this ideology.
Mm.
They believe in power. They
But
understand power, and they see weakness. And they, even by 6%, there's only 6% of Muslims in England, and even
mm,
6% of them can cause this much havoc.
mm,
They see that as power, the same way that Russia sees that as power. Right? They only understand you cannot appease Russia. You have to smack them for them to respect you.
mm, mm.
They are a
This
bully. you know
this is where we run the danger. A bully sees your silence as acquiescence.
yeah,
They do not see it as you simply not choosing to participate,
yeah,
or maybe you withdrawing judgment or whatever.
yeah,
It's considered acquiescence.
yeah.
So it is so important that people hear dissenting voices
But
like
you
yours,
yeah,
like
but
ours.
like, this is very something very important that I would like to add, because I want to temper my own self as well, right, on this.
Yeah.
Because extremist retaliations will cause more extremism of different kinds as well, right? This is why I am like constantly focusing on the governments to take action rather than people, right? So that's why I'm saying, like, we have to rethink our immigration policies. We have to say, these people from these countries, we're not having them for now. There's a pause on it. There's a pause on general immigration as well, and reverse immigration for people who are blatantly against religion and stuff. I'm also up to a point of ending dual nationalities, because, like, well, you can only have loyalty towards one king,
Yeah.
whatever that means, right? That's even
Mm.
said in the Bible, by the way. You can only have loyalty towards one king, so the concept of dual nationality should not be there. There's, like, people say, oh, I am from France, I'm from England. I don't give a fuck. Like, you can have an indefinite leave to remain, right? So you have other means of doing this. You cannot say
Pick
that
a
you are.
lane, bitch.
Yeah,
That's a view.
pick a lane. Like, you can't say, like, I hold all my loyalty towards the king of England, king of Britain, but I'm also French. It's like, that is actually doesn't make sense, because
Yeah.
those two countries have been fighting each other for fucking 1,000 years. It doesn't make any sense, right? But the reason is, whatever needs to happen very strongly from the government, because if the government does not do this, then it will show us that justice doesn't matter and justice is not effective. And that's
Mm,
where people started taking justice in their own hands.
mm,
And you know what, they would be right to do so,
mm.
because, like, how much can you take these people who are coming from
Exactly.
other countries? They're abusing your kids, they're abusing your girls, like it happened in north of England, right? Thousands of English girls were sexually groomed and abused by these Pakistani men. And the left party, the Labour Party, who were in those councils, they hid that information because they didn't wanted racial problems,
Mm,
and they didn't do anything about it as well.
yeah.
So that anger, when it's not addressed, is rightly gonna come out of people. And this is what I fear, because everyone is gonna be caught in the crossfire of that. I'll be caught in the crossfire of that because I look like a very good Muslim. So and these sort of things would happen. What happened after 9/11? The Sikhs were getting attacked. Why? Because they looked like that, right? People
Yeah.
rage out, people like. But the thing is, it is understandable as well, so I don't
Yeah.
blame those people. But they become more and more far right. It's not, they're
Yeah.
not consciously, they're people. It's something that, again, people don't understand. It's not as if, like, each far right person goes home and starts reading about like the far right ideologies and nationalism, and like the ethno nationalisms and stuff like that, ethno symbolism and stuff, and then she says, okay, I'm making a conscious decision. you know no, it's about feelings, it's about emotions and stuff. They're not bad people. They're reacting how a wounded wolf would react. Someone who's got back to the wall, they will have to react like that. And is the application is obviously not going to be right. How can they? They cannot judge individually the whole thing. That's why government really needs to step in, because if it doesn't, I said that 3 years ago, the West will not go down by external wars; it will go down by civil wars if the governments don't take steps. And it's
Yeah.
going to happen every. It's going to create a chain reaction of
Mm.
liturgy of civil wars and stuff.
So,
That's
so,
what
so
I'm
you,
mindful about.
so you are of the opinion that, if I can summarize it, you can correct me if I'm
Hmm.
wrong afterwards. You strike me as the type of person that would go, not all religions or schools of thought are equal. Some of them
not
are
all
fucking
not all
horrible.
human beings are equal.
Yeah, but no, but I mean, but some schools of thought are just anti-human.
Yeah, yeah,
They don't have humanity's best
yeah.
interest at heart, and
So the thing is, like, not everyone, like, because I always say that as well, not every person is equal, but they should be treated as if they were equal. They
yeah,
should be given that levity. But I'm not as equal as Elon Musk, am I? Like, he's out there creating spaceships and stuff, and I don't even can't build even a Lego spaceship, right? So we don't. I'm not his equal, right? I'm not gonna be equal of any of those peoples. Like, I'm not Richard Dawkins equal, right? Like, he knows stuff that I can't know, or maybe not even have an interest to know, like at times, so, but the thing is, it shouldn't be like people get priority and stuff. And this is where we have muddled up, where we are giving priorities, where we giving accommodation to people of different faith in the West. Is their culture? It's like, it doesn't matter. The law has to apply the same. They cannot pray in the fucking streets because it's public nuisance. Get them out. They
yeah,
cannot. They cannot
and
have Sharia law. It's not part of us. Get them out. They
and
cannot marry four
the
people. Get them out.
next time somebody calls me a racist for dissing on Islam, I'm gonna fucking lose my mind, moments, because
Yeah.
it's not a race.
No.
It's
It's
not a race,
definitely not a
like
race.
I could
Even
be,
Quran says that it's for the whole of humanity, right? So how can it be a race? So
yeah. It's like, um, uh, you know, I don't care about your race. I care about your fucking idiotic beliefs.
yeah,
That's the problem
yeah,
that I have.
yeah. And the same strand of problems are with the communist as well. And I'm gonna keep on bringing it back till people really
Yeah.
get it in their head that this is a problem. The problem of communism should have been dealt with by the West a long fucking time ago. They have let it happen, and now it's permeated through each of our institutions. And this is why we are unable to take actions, because we are so much infiltrated. Because
Mm,
there's a reason why Hitler and Japan had an agreement with each other. There's a reason why Hitler and Soviets had an agreement with each other at points, right? Not because they believed in each other's ideology. It's because they were against the same enemy. And
right.
communism is against the same enemy. It's a totalitarian ideology. It wants to take over the West. It doesn't
So
like the West and wants to
there's
destroy it.
there's a parallel between you drawing a very distinct parallel between Islam and communism.
Yeah, there is. Look at that. Islam tells you you can lie to your enemies. Communism tells you to lie to your enemies, right? Yeah, Islam tells you to infiltrate in these departments and tell them how it is through your, like, whatever, how you feel about it. Communism does that through socialism, right? Exactly. You go down and down to these roots. There's like, you know the group matter more than the individual. All these ideologies, all these checks, they matter, because
Yeah,
it's and and Marxism is very recent, you know so we should have been aware of, if we were aware of Islam a lot more in those times, we would have seen the problems with Marxism.
Yeah.
They're all from resentment. They're all a radical idea, and
Mm,
anything that comes from resentment of the other and radical idea will always have this problem, because it
yeah.
doesn't want to create, it wants to destroy. It is made from that point of view. It doesn't strive towards
Yeah.
some positive idea. It strives towards a destruction of something, you know
Exactly.
and
But
this
this is
is.
the striking thing, Momus. It's almost like it's the purest form of resentment. It's when you have this this grudge against somebody, but instead of feeding them the poison, you drink it
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah,
That's
it's
that's the essence of it.
it's irrational, like, and I think so, like, we try to rationalize these things, but if
Mm,
someone is coming from an irrational point of view, you gotta, at times, you gotta say, like, okay, you know what, I don't need this in my life. We need to cut this out, and we need to. This is why I keep on
better
saying,
to
look,
amputate the limb. Yeah, it's
yeah,
better to
the
amputate
problem
the
is,
limb.
like, people are in so much despair that they do not see, like, how do we get out of it. In
Mm,
England, if you see now, recently they found out that two of the people within the police, one police advisor and one of the person was this police leadership candidate, like, person who looks for police leadership candidates and stuff like that, right? Both of them Muslims in different thing. Both of them were giving out terrorist ideas, right? One of them was caught on a video in Islam, and he was calling for jihad and stuff. And this is a Metropolitan London Police advisor. These people are in there a lot, right? And this is just the Islamists that are coming out. Not Islamists, is Muslims.
mm,
There are coming out. There's a lot more of the Marxist elements in there. Most of our public institutions, their heads are Marxist, all of them, most of them, right? Why does that happen? Because for a very long time it has been a prerequisite to have university degrees and stuff and qualifications to be in those positions. Who
mm.
has been within our universities and stuff, even especially the people who are teaching us economics in universities, they are Marxists. It's like, what the fuck are we doing? What are we doing?
Exactly.
E- so
It's like
either,
it's like the mother superior in the convent giving sex education
yeah,
lessons.
it's sort of like, so people don't see a way out of it. People don't see a way out of Islam and stuff as well, and that's why I say, if the government does not provide a way out, this is going to lead to civil wars. And I do not see any government in any of the Western countries, none of their leadership is strong enough. None of them have an idea of their own. They're all globalist, they all think alike, and they all do the same, and they all do nothing at the same time.
Yeah,
There is no individual, and like, Poland and Hungary. Now, my wife is Polish, so I know Poland a lot. Like, we've been married for 10 years. I've been with her for 12 years. I've been going in and out of Poland, so I know their mentality a lot, right? There's a reason. It doesn't matter who their government is, whether they're conservative, whether they're liberal, it doesn't matter at all. But this point they got it right. They told EU, no, fuck off. These people are going to destroy our countries. We do not want any Muslims in our country. And they
right.
stood fast, right? Those two are the only countries, or some others, Eastern European as well, that do not have any Muslim terrorist activities, because they do not have a single refugee from Syria, from Iraq, or anywhere,
Right.
or
Right.
any even normal immigrants as well. They just don't
Right.
have it. It's like, no, we're not having it. And they took all the immigrants from Ukraine and stuff, because they're like, yeah, because they're culturally the same. And that's what they
Yeah.
have to. It's like, well, these people are going to come in. They're not going to integrate into Polish culture. They're not even going to, speak our language. So why are we having them in? So it's like,
I heard people speak Polish. Trust me. It's
but
gonna be
like,
an uphill. It's gonna be an uphill battle.
but like, but this is the thing, like, and what we do, what our bleeding liberal hearts do, is we
Mm,
start saying that, oh, they're fucking Hitler, oh, they're far right and stuff. No, they're preserving their
yeah,
society. This
but
is something that everyone should do.
there's a specific there's a specific point where it becomes pragmatic, where
Yes.
like there is a certain level of
Yeah.
pragmatism involved in that
And you have to
decision
temper
making
them as well,
process.
because they can go overboard, like because the Polish one
Exactly, but
had gone
that's
overboard,
the thing that
you know.
I'm scared of.
Yeah.
Is whenever you give somebody who has a pragmatic
Yeah.
solution too much power, it also goes very
But
very.
like if we all believed in the same realities, then it wouldn't happen. If the left also believed in the same reality as the right, that maintaining borders and maintaining civilizations and maintaining cultures is important, self hate is not productive. Stop
Yeah,
beating yourself about something that happened hundreds of years ago. Take the good things out of your culture and remember them and maintain those traditions and maintain that thread of society. Multiculturalism doesn't work. Multi ethnicity is different from multiculturalism, right? You cannot have different cultures in one country and give them all equal priorities. That's just gonna fall down. You need to have a culture that is put above other culture, which is the national culture, and then you can have subcultures. You can have appreciation of other cultures, and like whatever in between. But you can't just start saying like, yeah, the culture that is coming from abroad is better than our culture, because then you're
yeah,
saying our country means nothing without the other people coming in. You start
yeah,
crumbling down. But this is what I'm saying. W- the government needs to take steps. They need to say the problem with radical Islam is not going to end unless governments in the West say they are not allowed anymore. And then they have to go back and think about what they've done, sit in the
yeah.
corner, think about what they've done, and whether they want to behave themselves or not. And on the other
It's
hand,
true. It's
yeah,
like that moment. It's like that moment when you say to yourself, why are people avoiding me?
yeah,
Is it because I'm
is
not
it
wearing
me?
deodorant?
Is it
Is
me?
it me?
Yeah. Like, yeah. Your bloody dasha and your fucking sword in your hand. Maybe it's you. But on the other hand, as well, the other threat that, because there's simultaneous threat that the West is facing. The other threat is from this Marxist communist ideology, and I think so. It's about time that they have to equate Marxism same as Nazism
Yeah,
and say it is as undesirable as Nazism, right? Get this out. Get this out. It's like, okay, you can have your socialism, but you're not having Marxism. I don't care, like, oh, you try to explain stuff. Yeah, the Muslims try to explain that as well, right? They also try to explain their radicalism. They also try to explain their winged donkeys and stuff like that. Not having it anymore. You know, once you start doing that, then you start disincentivizing those ideologies to those anti-Western ideologies to maintain within the West. And that's when you start believing in the same realities. You start like coming to a point where
yeah,
people are becoming less and less radical. But unless people, like, we get some serious leaders with serious fucking big ass balls, we're
yeah,
not getting this done. And that's why I think we're not getting this done. This is why I do understand Ayan's point that it's not going to happen unless there's
yeah,
war. And there's, unfortunately, on that very very depressing note, you know
yeah.
the end
It's
note would
true.
be like, it's not it, we have to strengthen your
Yeah.
resolves,
It's
because
like a powder keg. It's like, sometimes I feel like I'm sitting on a fucking powder keg and there are a bunch of 3-year-old kids running around with
yeah
matches and
yeah
and burning
yeah
flares and
yeah also,
and
also
I'm the
you can
person sitting on the powder keg and I'm just going like, what the
yeah.
fuck is it's
And
gonna take
at
this
some
long.
point, like, this whole West right now is being strung together with a duct tape, like, and eventually you gotta say, this is not working. Why am I, this third wing that I've built over here with duct tapes is actually harming the whole structure of the house. So you gotta cut all those things out and say, okay, you know what, you call me a far right, then so be it, but I'm working for the preservation of my civilization.
Exactly.
Otherwise, we're not going to, unless the left and the right forget about the extremes, because they're always a minority, right? The
Yeah.
left has to unload this baggage of Marxism outside. They have to say, we are against it. This is not us. Get out. The right has to do the same thing. These religious fanatics are not part of us. Get out. We accept religion, but not, extremism within it. That needs to
Yeah,
get out. Come to the same realities and understand the same realities, and then build from it. Unless we do that, this is it, folks. This is it.
yeah.
We're gonna be in our different trenches.
But
We don't
isn't
won't know who
the
to fight or
survival
not to fight. And
of the human race is at stake? You know, like
yeah,
we're not playing with a small wager here. We're not just
no,
playing to, to
no,
make a certain group of people or a
no,
certain ethnicity feel comfortable.
yeah.
We literally we have the
Also,
survival of our species
yeah,
is at stake
we
here
need to
because
stop listening to kids. Like
yeah,
I'm
the one
constantly annoyed by, like, you know uh, we listening to kids on climate change. Like, I'm sorry, but Greta hasn't even lived her life long enough for me to take her seriously. Like, they are practicalities. You can't just stop things. You have
yeah,
to this is a, you have to build things in place. Stop listening to kids, bringing kids in the fucking UN, and oh, everyone listen to
you're
them.
gonna live in a
What?
hut and eat lentils.
Yeah, it's like, I just don't like, and
But then
immature people. Like, we listening to people who are like adult babies, right?
like Ali
The
Dawa is one of them.
Yeah, we need to seriously, like, stop even arguing with them. It's like, no, no,
Yes,
no,
please.
I'm not listening to you. Yeah,
Oh, Momus.
yeah,
But what was I was going to say? See, the problem is that these extremists, they love death more than we love life.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
the problem.
yeah.
That's the problem, and
They
they're not.
they love destruction. They love See, the thing is with evil. So this is something that is established within the religion, like within Christianity and stuff like that. Evil loves chaos. It loves mayhem. It creates chaos and it creates mayhem. It doesn't have a plan.
Yeah,
It just wants to burn the whole bloody world. So we need to stop being reasonable with these people. We have to say, like, no, we have to be stern. We have to use tough love where it's important, and we have to use punishment where it's important. We have to use
yeah,
exclusion where it's important. We have to stop being so fucking meek, because it's not going to work. This is evil on a very weird scale, but people don't even know they're promulgating like evil like this. They
mhm,
just gone off board. They just want they A lot of the people on the left, right, the far left, their lives are fucked. you know they have so many inputs from so many different reasons. They don't have anything putting that in sort of basis of reality. They don't have any adults telling them, like, no, 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 you're not a girl, you keep your dick and balls, you know s- go through this, and you will probably realize that you're gay. Yeah, and it's fine. Okay,
yeah.
and if
Wait
not,
until
then
you're
we will
25.
discover something for you. Exactly, we will
That's
discover.
my rule. You
Yeah,
can do whatever you want, but wait until you're 25.
exactly, when your
Because
mind is actually developed, right? So then you
sometimes it
can.
goes to extremes. You know, I personally also I have my own look. I mean, I'm at the end of the day, if you're an adult and you want to,
Yeah, yeah,
cut your fingers off, I don't care.
yeah, yeah,
I don't care.
yeah,
But the thing is, when you there is, something that I've noticed lately is that there is a little bit of an agenda coming in from the left, and they're extremists. They're just as
yeah,
extremist as the right. They
yeah.
exactly they birds,
And
you know, cut from,
that is a thread of Marxism that comes
mm,
through, right? So,
they
and it's
birds of a
also very.
feather. They cut from
Yeah,
exactly the same cloth.
yeah. And they
Um,
don't care. They don't care about these people. I'm saying it because I fucking care. It's like they can
yeah,
call me a transphobe, right?
um,
I care about that human that you are cutting. I care about that person because you're not catering to their mental well-being. You're affirming their mental illness. That is the most stupid thing that you can do. Affirm someone's mental illness. No, you have to make them accept that there is a problem. You have a mental disorder, but we're going to work through it. And if And if it comes to that point after the age of 25 that you want to still continue with it, then we're going to find ways for you and you can do that. But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to say that it is okay, that it is normal, because it's not normal, right? It's not normal. It doesn't
Yeah,
help us.
I don't know, Momus. Like sometimes sometimes I look at what we consider normal and I see the fuck.
Okay, let's not
We in
say
for
like normal, but
we in
like,
for a roller coaster ride here.
but we can say like it's not beneficial for the general populace to assume that as normal practice. It's not going to. If everyone started doing that, we will die within a generation. Like,
Yeah, but I mean, everybody's not doing that, Momus.
but
It's like
that's what I'm
it's
saying. So,
it's
but
such
we
a
are,
small it's such a small minuscule
and I
percentage
hope,
of
and I hope it doesn't. I hope it remains that, because it's not. It's not good for us. It's not like, but it might come across as weird what I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's not like, that we should stop it. That's
yeah,
what I'm saying, that we should help it, and we should not promote it as such that people become confused
yeah,
and then see that as a trendy thing, because kids go by trends and stuff. This is something like, we know that. So don't make it into a trend.
yeah,
Treat it as it's supposed to be treated. Treat it as any normal mental disorder is treated, because they have gender dysphoria. Be compassionate towards them, be kind
yeah,
towards them. Don't treat them as if, they are some other species or something like that.
yeah,
But don't pander to them as well. At the same time, don't affirm someone's like, oh yeah, it's okay, because then what we have is, we have people who are on social media and stuff, who have in their bio their illnesses as their identity, because they start identifying as that. Once you start identifying with your problems, then your problems become your identity, and you do not want to fix your problems. That's the strain in what I'm thinking, like, but I'm
yeah.
too straightforward for my own good sometimes as well. But
I
like,
think it's,
we have to think about the whole
it comes with
population.
age, Momus. It comes with
Yeah,
age.
yeah,
I've also realized, like, I'm coming on to half a century, and I'm saying to myself, like, fuck, like I'm turning into
yeah.
a real
Well,
old,
I'm
old
only
curmudgeon
towards
here.
I'm only towards like the later stage of my 30s, so I don't know what I'll be when I'm nearing 50.
Okay. Well, Momus, it's been an absolute delight. I've really enjoyed speaking to you, and
Likewise.
by all means, more power to you. I think that more people should stand up and speak out about this pernicious religion from the Middle East that's, at its core trying to end civilization as we know it. But that's just my take on it. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for being so generous with it, for coming to meet with us and speaking to us. And where can people find you on social
Oh,
media, if there is anything that you'd like to plug?
so anywhere on social media, especially on Twitter, because I'm there most of the time. People can find me at the world of Momus, and I have a podcast which is about history and mythology, and it's called the World of Momus podcast. It can be found on YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, anywhere, to be honest. And but mostly like on I put it on Twitter as well, and on my own website, which is momusnudgeme.net. Also have two books out which are on Amazon, where it can be searched by my name, because there's no one else by my name in the world. So because not my actual name, so that's why. So yeah, so that's where people can find me. I'm
Send me,
active on Twitter.
yeah, email me a list of your links, and I'll put it in the video
Awesome.
description so
Yeah,
people can find you.
thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Momus.
Thank you.